Claudio Ranieri had not long been in charge at the King Power Stadium when his head of recruitment, Steve Walsh, came forward with the name of N'Golo Kanté, a busy midfielder at French side Caen. Ranieri, in truth, was not particularly impressed, feeling amongst other things that Kanté's diminutive frame would not cope with the bruising rigors of the Premier League. But he would later realize he is the midfield dynamo who would propel the Foxes to a previously unreachable height that season. He would later join Chelsea and accomplish even more. Ranieri often joked about him having batteries and said, "One day, I'm going to see you cross the ball and then finish the cross with a header yourself." Thomas Tuchel, with whom Kanté won the 2020-21 Champions League, said, "If you play with N'Golo, you have half a man more. He is a big gift for me." His skill not only astounded onlookers, but also led some to conclude that he was not human and was most likely the result of artificial intelligence. 70% of the earth is covered with water, and the rest by N'Golo Kanté, a favored joke football fans would use to describe his tireless work on the pitch. His French teammate Pogba even described N'Golo Kanté as a human with 15 lungs. We detail his fascinating journey, which began as a poor kid living in a French banlieue to becoming one of the game's best midfielders in this video.
Sometimes when I'm on the pitch, I see him twice, one on the left, one on the right.
Chelsea midfielder N'Golo Kanté has been voted for by his fellow professionals as PFA Player of the Year. The Frenchman scored.
N'Golo Kanté against Manchester United again.
The socio-economic stratification in France is such that many French whites, thus with no immigrant background, belong generally to the middle or upper class. Most of them are well educated and reside in affluent neighborhoods. Encouraged by their families, they are more likely to choose academic over professional careers. On the other hand, French blacks and Arabs typically reside in less affluent neighborhoods, sometimes known as banlieues, on the outskirts of all cities, where the educational system is understaffed and underfunded. As a result, skill levels are lower than those of the rest of France, which adds to the country's high unemployment rate. Many of the families do not place a high value on their children's academic success and are occasionally illiterate or have lower educational levels. As a result, most blacks and Arabs tend to make the most of their God-given talents, thus, if they have any, to grow to be some of the wealthiest people in the world. This partly explains why the French national team has many players of African descent. As the British say, football is a gentleman game played by ruffians. When France won the World Cup in 1998, it was a victory full of symbolism and promise. The multicultural team was seen as a uniting force and a vision of harmonious diversity. Zinedine Zidane, son of Algerian immigrants, became a national hero. Players like Marcel Desailly and Lilian Thuram became household names. It seemed like that feel-good factor would last forever, and many people in the suburbs hoped the champion's popularity would help reduce discrimination and improve lives. Yet in most black neighborhoods, unemployment is high and opportunities low. Successive governments have failed to fully address the issues of the suburbs. Well among footballers like Kylian Mbappé, Blaise Matuidi, Benjamin Mendy, Steven Nzonzi, Alphonse Areola, and Paul Pogba, to mention a few who have overcome the odds in incredible ways, is N'Golo Kanté. March 29, 1991. Paris, France, a Malian family who had relocated in France in 1980 welcomed a baby boy. He was bestowed with a name that would motivate him to excel. They called him after the fabled monarch King N'Golo Diarra, a freed slave who rose to prominence in the 1760s and brought prosperity to the Bambara Kingdom, one of the biggest states in West Africa during the 18th century. Kanté was raised in Rueil-Malmaison, a commune in the Hauts-de-Seine department, Île-de-France region, along with his siblings in a flat on the first floor of a contemporary apartment building. Kanté, a strong-willed youngster who was determined to help his family escape hardship, began working as a trash picker at a young age, with his mother supporting the family by working as a cleaner. As a refuse collector, Kanté would walk for kilometers around the suburbs of eastern Paris, looking for all sort of valuable waste to collect and deliver to small recycling firms, all in the name of quick cash. But knowing fully well garbage picking would continually make his family poor, Kanté sought out alternatives to financial freedom and an assured future for himself and his family. But he would only get to know the next step to take after the 1998 World Cup in his country, France. He covered major ground used for the tournament close to his home, including squares of hotels that served as viewing centers. N'Golo Kanté did all these to make money which he could invest in something worthwhile. Kanté was only 7 when on July 12, 1998, France won the World Cup for the first time in its history, thumping a Brazil side that included stars like Ronaldo, Rivaldo and Roberto Carlos in a final at the Stade de France in Paris. After the final whistle, hundreds of thousands of joyous French fans poured onto the Champs-Élysées to celebrate the victory. A picture of Zinedine Zidane, the mercurial midfielder who had scored 2 goals that night, was projected onto the Arc de Triomphe along with the words "Merci Zizou." Zidane, a second-generation Algerian immigrant from a working-class area of Marseille, had been part of a team that included players of Armenian, Ghanaian, Senegalese and Guadeloupean descent. As his name rang through the streets, many heralded the victory as a historic footballing achievement and a celebration of a new multicultural France united under one flag. It was there Kanté saw a different France. He saw an opportunity-filled country whose football glory and future rested on the shoulders of migrants. This was a time he got familiarized with the names of African migrants who helped France clinch the 1998 FIFA World Cup. In his own words, he said, "I was 7 years old when France first won the World Cup for the country in 1998, and I was so excited, I said to my friends, 'One day, I will win it.'" Shortly after the 1998 World Cup, Kanté aspired to take football as a career, having noticed that lots of football academies had popped up close to his home. It wasn't long before he began his career at JS Suren in the western suburbs of Paris at age 8. But he would soon realize the road to the top is a rocky one and needed to build his mental strength, prove doubters wrong, turn deaf ears to naysayers, and most importantly, work hard. And that was exactly what he did. Few years after enrolling in Suren, a tragedy would hit Kanté and his family. His father won't live long to witness the greatness of N'Golo as he died shortly after he turned 11. But nobody at Suren knew. None of the staffs there met either of his parents, as an older sister typically took responsibility for administrative tasks, such as signing registration forms. Kanté would also face similar career challenge, as players like Roy Keane, Antoine Griezmann, Jordi Alba, Frank Ribery and Marco Reus, to mention a few, who were constantly overlooked by big teams due to their small frames. According to the club secretary of his first club, Pierre Ville, Kanté remained outside the radar of big teams because of his small stature and selfless style of play. Ville would drive Kanté to trials at professional clubs in the region or take him to the train station for trips to teams. He went west to Rennes and Lorient, east to Sochaux, north to Beauvais and Amiens, as well as south to the National Football Centre at Clairefontaine. But none of them showed interest. Kanté was right on Paris Saint-Germain's doorstep, but he passed beneath their radar too. At the time in France, it was all about height and physique. The professional clubs didn't really look at a player's intelligence. It was more their physical, athletic profile, said Piotr Wojtyła, a 50-year-old Polish expatriate who was Kanté's first coach. The officials at Suren did their best to keep their young protégés' hopes up. Nobody at Suren had given up hope, and later that year Kanté's luck finally changed. Jean-Pierre Perinel, Suren president, the man I would go further to describe as Kanté's guardian angel in human form, arranged for him to take part in a trial at Boulogne-sur-Mer, whose senior team had just been relegated to Ligue 2. This time, Kanté was accepted. The Boulogne trial took place at the club's training ground, which sits on the side of a hill overlooking the city, in the summer of 2010. The club arranged a match for potential recruits, and a lot of players showed up that day. Wojtyła said it was Kanté's last chance. Remarkably, Gilbert Zunichind, who oversaw Boulogne's academy at the time, expressed his admiration for Kanté's performance by stating, "He stood out because of how active he was. His physical capacities and his ability to change pace, that really struck us. He won a lot of balls. He lost a few as well, but I'd rarely seen someone who was so involved in the thick of the action and also capable of blistering acceleration." And we found ourselves asking, where does he play? What's his best position? Because he was everywhere. Kanté was eventually signed by Boulogne on an amateur contract, which Perinel assisted in arranging. Kanté's desire to pursue his education was shared by Perinel. His uncertainty about his ability to support himself as a football player was a major contributing factor. He was 19 in 2010. His future teammate Eden Hazard, who was also the same age in 2010, except that he was born 2 months earlier, had played over 70 Ligue 1 games for Lille and had his first taste of European football. Similarly, at 19, another future teammate of Kanté, Cesc Fabregas, had already started in a Champions League final and played at a World Cup. Because of his strong mathematical skills, he chose to pursue an accountancy degree after receiving his baccalaureate, which is the French term for a high school diploma, while still playing at Surin. Kanté enrolled in a vocational accounting course at Lycée Giraud-Sagné, a college located in the heart of the city, with Perinel's help. The 2011-12 season saw Boulogne fighting to stay in Ligue 2, and Pascal Planck, their coach, didn't think it was the right time to bring in an inexperienced player. Kanté didn't actually get a taste of professional football until Boulogne lost to relegation. On May 18, 2012, Boulogne was hosting Monaco for their season's last game at home. They were defeated 2-1. The main reason the match sticks in memory is that Danijel Subasic, the goalkeeper for Monaco, scored the game-winning goal. Boulogne's drop to the third division, their second in 3 seasons, was going to prove to be a significant turning point in Kanté's professional life. Following Planck's dismissal, Georges Tourné brought Kanté into the starting lineup right away. In the first home game of the 2012-13 season, Boulogne defeated Luzenac 1-0, thanks to a goal from close range in the 7th minute by Kanté, who netted his first goal in professional football. Mr. Perinel continued to work behind the scenes to get Kanté to a bigger club. It was obvious that he was too good for his environment and needed to move on to reach his full potential. In August of 2012, Mr. Perinel gave Caen's sporting director, Alain Caveglia, a call and suggested that they sign Kanté. He didn't pursue the call because it was just one of the regular ones they occasionally received. Perinel gave Caveglia a call again in September, telling him that he had to come and see him. He then sent someone to observe him in action. He sent another person to watch him play, and the report was positive. The second scout remarked, "Alain, there's really something in this player." Alain Caveglia attended a personal viewing of him in November 2012, and it was immediately apparent that he possessed exceptional qualities. Driving from Caen to Boulogne along the northern French coast takes about 6 hours in total. Caveglia was fortunate to not have to return. "I only watched him once. That's all I needed," said Caveglia. Kanté signed a pre-contract agreement with Caen in January 2013, and he signed a 3-year contract with them at the end of the season. Finally, at the age of 22, a professional. His new team had a roster full of elite experience, having spent the previous 10 seasons alternating between Ligue 1 and Ligue 2. Kanté discovered that Jérôme Rothen, a former midfielder for both Paris Saint-Germain and France, was one of several players used to competing at the greatest level in the locker room. But he got back on track quite fast. He participated in every match as Caen finished third and earned a spot in the Ligue 2 team of the season, earning them promotion to Ligue 1. Regretfully, Perinel would never witness Kanté compete in the elite league. Early in 2014, he passed away from cancer. While Kanté had had support from several individuals in his early career, Perinel was always there to lend a helping hand when he made a significant advancement. From the beginning to the end, the guy who put it in the pipeline was Jean-Pierre Perinel, says Pierre Ville. Nicolas Durand, general manager at Boulogne, said, Mr. Perinel always really believed in Kanté. When Kanté's first Ligue 1 season arrived, he appeared to be a man in a rush. He had 2 goals in his first 3 games, expertly taken in victories over Evian and Rennes on the road. However, he was sent off in a 1-0 loss at home against Rennes after receiving 2 bookings in the first 29 minutes for 2 reckless sliding challenges. The only game he would miss the entire season was the one he sat out due to suspension. With the skillful Julien Ferret beside him and the seasoned Nicolas Soubé positioned in front of the back 4, Garand used him as one of the 2 advanced central midfielders in a 4-1-4-1 formation. The security that Soubé provided allowed him to play his natural, hyper-aggressive pressing game without worrying about leaving space behind him. In fact, he felt more at ease in this system, but goals were the only element lacking from his game. Leicester's assistant manager, Nigel Pearson, and head of recruitment, Steve Walsh, had been following Kanté for a while. Walsh was given the go-ahead to pursue Kanté by manager Nigel Pearson, but Ranieri, his replacement at Leicester, was unsure. Despite his impressive performance in Ligue 1, the player's size continued to be a problem. Marseille was on Kanté's mind in that moment. Kanté parted ways with Philippe Flavier, his agent, to join Excel Sports' Etienne Mendy and Pierre Frelot in the hopes of securing a transfer to Olympique Marseille. Kanté was admired by Marseille manager Marcelo Bielsa. Bielsa intended to pair him with Lille's Idrissa Gueye at the time. Together, surrounded by more imaginative players, they would have been terrifying. However, Marseille had made substantial acquisitions in the 2 summer transfer windows prior, so caution was emphasized when the 2015 market opened. The most they could offer for Kanté was €5 million plus bonus. But Caen turned them down, with general manager Xavier Gravelaine characterizing the €5 million offer as disrespectful to both the team and N'Golo Kanté. With a bid of about €8 million, Leicester City easily prevailed. Kanté had no choice but to go to the East Midlands. Idrissa Gueye finally arrived at Aston Villa, a short distance away. Instead of Kanté and Gueye, Marseille settled for the perennially injured Abou Diaby and Lassana Diarra, who had not played for 15 months because of a contract dispute with Lokomotiv Moscow. Walsh asked an agent based in Paris to bring Kanté over to England in early August, and for 3 days they had him switch off his phone. He wasn't allowed to turn it on again until he had put pen to paper on a contract at Leicester's Belvoir Drive training ground. We had to almost kidnap him. I had friends in France bring him over. His primary agent didn't even know he was there, Walsh explained. Kanté's move to Leicester in 2015 was worth €240,000 to Surin, money they invested in infrastructure improvements and 2 new minibuses. 5 days after Kanté's move to Leicester was announced, and just minutes after a 1-0 home defeat by Caen on the opening Saturday of the new campaign, Marseille boss Bielsa walked into the press conference room at the Velodrome and announced that he was leaving. Kanté was deployed as a wide midfielder in some of his early Leicester games. Ranieri, however, later realized that Kanté performs best when used as a central midfielder, and just as at Suresnes, Boulogne and Caen, once he got into the team, there was no shifting him. With Kanté, Leicester, who had just won the championship, reached previously unreachable height and won the Premier League. For his continuously outstanding performances for Leicester, Kanté received high appreciation and accolades. Even though Jamie Vardy and Riyad Mahrez took home the major individual honours at the end of a season, astute observers saw how crucial Kanté was in creating a midfield platform. The Frenchman provided defensive support for Danny Drinkwater in the midfield, but it was his unwavering enthusiasm and capacity to thwart opponents' advances that made him such an invaluable tool in Leicester's quick counter-attacks. To try to ward off interest from elsewhere, Leicester City offered N'Golo Kanté a new 4-year contract worth £120,000 a week at the King Power Stadium. Kanté's teammates at Leicester made a valiant effort to persuade him to stay, but he was set on joining Chelsea. In the summer, After the international matches, he came to me and wanted to go, and I could understand. Of course, I tried to keep him with all my strength, Ranieri explained. Paris Saint-Germain, a team that turned down N'Golo Kanté when he was younger, as well as Arsenal, would compete with Chelsea for his services. However, the Blues were prepared to go above and beyond to acquire the Frenchman. Thanks to Marina Vladimirovna Granovskaya, a Russian-Canadian business professional known for her notoriously sharp negotiation skills. She served as the director of Chelsea from 2014 to 2022. Chelsea were able to beat PSG and Arsenal because of a monster commission offered to his agents. They blew both clubs out of the water when appealing to his agents, so much that Marina Granovskaya was apparently worried about what owner Roman Abramovich would think. French clubs were limited to paying just 10% commission to agents during the transfer process, a rule that didn't apply to English clubs. One leaked document seemed to suggest PSG were resigned to losing out because what they could offer as commission was so little. It is said that Chelsea increased the agent commission to a vast 30%, paying a total of €12 million to the two agents involved in Kanté's transfer. One Gregory Dakad took a share €7.2 million, and Abdelkarim Douis received €4.8 million. Kanté's reported transfer was €38.5 million, but it would appear that Chelsea splashed out a shade over €50 million to ensure that Kanté's agent pointed the player in the direction of Stamford Bridge. When Granovskaya briefed Abramovich about the deal that had been arranged and the figures involved, her email is alleged to have warned, "Do not faint." Due to the high cost of the agent's fees involved, Arsenal decided against moving for N'Golo Kanté and instead signed Granit Xhaka. Kanté joined Chelsea on July 16, 2016 for a 5-year contract. He was assigned the number 7 shirt, which had been vacant since Ramirez left in January. Kanté and Nemanja Matic worked seamlessly together in Kanté's 3-4-3 formation, with Kanté right of center playing in the wide players nearest him and Matic doing the same on the left. When one player goes forward, the other stays back. On 15 August 2016, Kanté made his competitive debut in their season opener against West Ham United, and he shone as the game went on to help Chelsea to a 2-1 victory. 3 months after his move to London, he faced his former side, Leicester City, for the first time, and was man of the match in a 3-0 victory. On 23 October, he scored his first goal for Chelsea in a 4-0 home win against Manchester United. N'Golo Kanté played a key role to help Antonio Conte replicate his success with Juventus in Italy, as Chelsea went on to win the Premier League title. Chelsea set club records for the most consecutive league wins, 13, as well as a then-record 30 wins in 38 Premier League games during that championship-winning campaign. In addition to winning PFA Player of the Year, he was selected to the PFA Team of the Year for the 2nd year in a row, and received a nomination for the Ballon d'Or in October 2017. Ranking-wise, he came in 8th place, behind Cristiano Ronaldo, Kylian Mbappe, Sergio Ramos, Luka Modric, Gianluigi Buffon, Neymar, and Lionel Messi. Nevertheless, the Italian was unable to build on Chelsea's successful campaign. After the club was unable to make the acquisitions he desired to defend the Premier League title, Chelsea finished 5th in the league and missed out on Champions League qualification for the 2017-18 campaign. Kanté had many memorable performances for the Blues, but one of his best at Chelsea came that season against Barcelona in the second leg of the round of 16 Champions League. Following a 1-1 draw in the first leg at Stamford Bridge, Lionel Messi and Ousmane Dembele sealed Barcelona's defeat of Chelsea at the Camp Nou to eliminate the Blues. However, his superhuman efforts didn't go unnoticed. One of the renowned sports tabloids Sport Bible said, "The match confirmed a few things. Lionel Messi is outrageous, probably not human too, and N'Golo Kanté is an absolute machine." The France international won his personal midfield battle against Sergio Busquets with consummate ease, just that his side were unlucky to have been on the end of a 3-0 drubbing. The Evening Standard correspondent Nizar Kinsella tweeted after that match saying, "I was speaking to many Spanish Catalan journalists last night, and they all were praising N'Golo Kanté's display. One told me, "I have never seen such positive consensus among the group for an away player than I saw for Kanté last night." Kanté's achievement peaked when he won the 2018 World Cup thanks to his perseverance. At this time, Kanté saw himself imitating France's 1998 World Cup heroes, who not only went on to win the tournament, but also served as an inspiration for him to pursue a football career. Once more, Paris Saint-Germain called. In July 2018, after the midfielder's outstanding performances for France during their successful World Cup campaign in Russia, they prepared to make a bid for him. Once more, they believed that Chelsea's failure to qualify for the Champions League was an excellent opportunity to lure the Frenchman to the French capital. However, the Blues even offered Kanté fresh terms worth around £260,000 a week in a bid to ward off potential suitors. Before the 2018-19 season, another Italian manager, Maurizio Sarri, took over from Antonio Conte after the latter was fired. Kanté was used in a more advanced midfield role under Sarri, which allowed him to demonstrate his efficiency when in possession of the ball and performing ball-carrying duties. Chelsea, though, faced criticism under Sarri because of their patchy results and performances. The team nevertheless had a great season, placing third in the Premier League, qualifying for the Carabao Cup final and taking home the Europa League. Despite not being fully fit, Kanté would give the football world another individual masterclass in the Europa League final. With his knee brace on, he dominated Arsenal's midfield for the entire 90 minutes as Chelsea defeated them 4-1.
Blue is the colour. Chelsea, the Europa League winners for 2000.
FIFA banned Chelsea from signing players for 2 transfer windows on February 22, 2019, following their discovery that they had violated the regulations regarding signing minors. Alongside that, Real Madrid acquired attacking sensation Eden Hazard. Former Chelsea midfielder Frank Lampard rejoined the team to take over as manager after Maurizio Sarri left to join Juventus. Paris Saint-Germain came calling once again for Kanté, but very aware of his club's situation and how important he is to the team, he decided against moving to the French giants and said, "Sometimes we do not necessarily know where we want to go, but we know what we have." He said he felt good in London and had faith in the project at Chelsea. Frank Lampard overcame the loss of Eden Hazard and a transfer ban to lead his side to 4th place and Champions League qualification. N'Golo Kanté would further solidify his status as one of the greatest midfielders of his generation in the 2020-21 campaign, with even more remarkable individual performances, which would be crucial to Chelsea's UEFA Champions League glory. Frank Lampard was sacked by Chelsea after just 18 months as head coach and was replaced by Thomas Tuchel, who had recently left Paris Saint-Germain. Tuchel restored Kanté to a double six holding midfield role to great effect, predominantly on the right-hand side, and usually partnered either by Jorginho or Mateo Kovacic. The Frenchman was widely lauded for his performances against the Spanish sides, Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid, winning the man of the match in the second leg against Atletico and in both legs against Real Madrid en route to the final of the Champions League. Real Madrid midfield trio Casemiro, Toni Kroos and Luka Modric regularly dominated midfield, but Kanté, with his energy and intelligence, restricted their influence in both legs. His outings against Madrid were even more impressive when you considered that he was observing Ramadan fasting. After blowing the Los Blancos out, the Chelsea fans were desperate to show their adoration for their hero and waited in large numbers outside the player's exit at Stamford Bridge. The humble hero N'Golo Kanté left Stamford Bridge in his Mini Cooper, in stark contrast to his teammates' supercars. Kai Havertz beat Ederson in a one-on-one shortly before half-time in Porto to give Chelsea a 1-0 final victory over Manchester City. Once again, Kanté's consistently solid presence in the Blues' midfield, harrying Manchester City and thwarting attacks with shrewd interceptions, saw him named man of the match as he won his first UEFA Champions League with Chelsea. His performance in the Champions League put him in contention for the 2021 Ballon d'Or and was named the UEFA Men's Midfielder of the Year on 26 August 2021, but lost out to Chelsea teammate Jorginho in the UEFA Men's Player of the Year award. On 8 October 2021, Jorginho, N'Golo Kanté, Mason Mount, Cesar Azpilicueta and Romelu Lukaku were the 5 Chelsea players named in the 30-player Ballon d'Or shortlist. Lionel Messi was the ultimate winner, with Kanté placing 5th behind Robert Lewandowski, Jorginho and Karim Benzema. Kanté helped the Blues to more success in Belfast, Northern Ireland, as Chelsea lifted the UEFA Super Cup with victory on penalties against Villarreal after a 1-1 draw. On 13th February 2022, he helped Chelsea to their first FIFA Club World Cup triumph in a 2-1 win over Palmeiras. Injuries disrupted his last season at Chelsea, causing him to even miss the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. He was restricted to 9 outings throughout the season. The 3-1 win against Bournemouth on May 6, 2023, was his last game for Chelsea, agreeing to sign for the Saudi professional league club Al-Ittihad on 1 July 2023 upon the expiration of his Chelsea contract. Not only an excellent all-action midfielder who is relentless in winning the ball back, Kanté is widely acknowledged as the nicest and most humble footballer in the world, thanks to his modest lifestyle. His kindness has been well documented, but not because he wants it to be, because everyone else wants to show just how nice he really is, even if he doesn't. He is constantly giving more and more reasons for people to love him. Some of the many examples emphasizing this came back in 2019 when he attended a Chelsea fan's wedding. The Chelsea midfielder was invited to the wedding of Henna Khalid and Raheel Malik by the bride's father, Frank Khalid. He initially couldn't due to commitments with Chelsea and the French national team. However, Kanté picked up an injury and couldn't join up with the national side, allowing him to attend the wedding. Moreover, despite pocketing huge amounts of money in wages and sponsorship deals, the French midfielder is leading a low-key life, which is in complete contrast to that of most footballers playing at the top level. Former Chelsea goalkeeper Martin Buka says Kanté would like to use some old and cheap things, such as a minicar and an old-school phone with a broken screen. Everyone kept asking him, "Why don't you buy a new one?" And he'd say, "It works, why would I need another one?" He isn't one to run to the corner flag or slide through the grass in front of fans when he scores a goal. He celebrates like he's done nothing special, smiles, and walks back to the halfway line. With an extremely private life, you hardly see pictures of his family or any potential spouse on the internet. As soon as Kanté has finished training or a game, he heads home and disappears until training or a match. The life and times of N'Golo Kanté are an inspiration to people of all ages because of his tale of humility, belief, perseverance, hard work, and ambition. From collecting waste on the streets of Paris to one of football's greatest midfielders. This is the story of N'Golo Kanté.